Hi, I'm Elizabeth St. Hilaire, and I'm an artist educator for Gel Press. I am a collage artist, and so 99.9% of the time, I'm using my gel plate to create a paper palette for my artwork. But today, because it's December and 'tis the season, I thought I would show you one of my other favorite techniques, which is how to make hand-painted gift wrap. Now, you know this is beautiful paper, and so you can really only give it to someone who will very much appreciate it. But, you know, there's always the option that once they unwrap their gift, you could take it back. But either way, it's a great opportunity with your gel press, your brayer, a couple of old maps, and some stencils and some creativity, and you can make something that will really knock people's socks off. So here's what you need to make hand-painted, beautiful, one-of-a-kind gift wrap. What I'm using today are a couple of old maps. They're the old road maps that unfold out, and they can be anything you want. I typically find that the uncoated paper works the best in terms of taking the paint off the plate, whereas the shiny paper doesn't work as well. You can make it work. I just think that the uncoated paper works better. So I've got a couple of old maps, and these you can generally get at Goodwill or use bookstores, or, you know, look around even in your own house or ask your friends. These were both donated to me by very kind people. I've also got some metallic gift wrap. So this has got a metallic pattern on it. And who doesn't love polka dots? So some metallic gift wrap for the polka dots. I've chosen some colors that I think are Christmassy without being traditional, red and green. So I've got quinacridone magenta, golden fluid acrylic. I've got iridescent bright gold fine. I've got turquoise phthalo. And I've got green gold. So these are my colors that I'm going to be using. Set those aside. I've got my gel press 6-inch brayer. I've got two brand new stencil designs, and these are my own stencils that I designed and are produced by joggles.com. So here's one that's called Ribbon Candy, and here's one that I can't remember what it's called. This pattern is always one that I combine with a second stencil. So I love the combination of these two together. And I call this one is my combining stencil. So I combine it with a lot of other different stencils. So I thought it would be a fun holiday combo, these two together. And then since I'm printing on such a large paper, being the map, I'm going to use the big Mac Daddy 12 by 12 gel press plate. And then I've also got a 12 by 12 Impressibles plate. And if you're not familiar with the designer series Impressibles, let's talk about that for a minute. So these are both pristine and have never been used thanks to the folks at Gel Press. So the Impressibles plate has got a pattern embossed into it. And it is this fun embossed square, concentric square pattern. This one is called Squares in Squares. This also comes in a 6x6, but I'm using again the big one for the big oversized paper. So this one with the Squares in Squares pattern is going to generate its own pattern of squares, and in addition to our other pattern making material being the stencils and the metallic, needs to be metallic gift wrap. All right. So I'm going to unwrap this one. The 12 by 12 I also like to use when I'm gel printing on fabric, because if your fabric is, larger than 8.5 by 11, you can print it much quicker when you're working with a 12 by 12 plate. So I'm working on my my non-stick craft mat tabletop, so I can put the gel plate right on it, and all this wipes up real clean when I'm done. So first thing that I like to do is to coat the map with a light colored solid of paint. So I'm gonna work on this one with all this great line quality, and I'm gonna just give it a whole bunch of prints of green gold because the way that I do my prints, I work from light to dark so that every layer can show through the next. So I'll start with green gold, and then I'll probably go to the magenta and then the turquoise phthalo, and I'm going to use the gold last. And you might say, well, that's lighter than these, but the nice thing about the gold is it is more opaque than the other colors, so it'll go on top and it'll stand up even off the darker colors. So because it's opaque and iridescent, I'm going to save it for the end. But for the regular colors, I'm going to work from light to medium to dark. So let's start with the light. And you're just going to squirt a little bit of it out onto the plate and roll it out with your brayer so you have a nice thin layer over the whole plate. And we are just going to make this map this nice pale yellow green. And the yellow green is so translucent, you can see those black tick marks very clearly, and that's how you know the translucency of the paint. This is so translucent that our map is going to show through it really well. So I'm just going to create a solid base, and when I print these, I'm not going to worry if they overlap or if they're not perfect, because this is just my solid base. So because my gel plate is brand new, I'm getting a little bit of what they call blooming. You see those little dots. This is when the oil that's in the plate, when it's brand new, the oil leaches out and it'll do this blooming. I love it, but you can't fall in love with it because it only happens until you get your plate a little bit dirty and then it stops. So if it's not the effect that you want, rest assured that it's like a cast iron frying pan. You just have to season it. You have to season the plate and then you'll be all set. So So now I've got my map covered in a nice light green gold. Now some of these old maps have been folded and folded and refolded, and I've got a little tear right along the seam here. Have no fear, just tape it from the back because you're going to be taping this together when you wrap the gift anyway. So if you have any areas that split apart when they stick to the plate, just tape them back together on the opposite side. So now we've got the next color, and I'm going to go to the magenta for that. And the first technique that I'm going to put on my gift wrap is with the metallic tissue. So the metallic tissue works because the paint does not pull off the plate evenly between the paper and the metallic. The paint is going to pull off the plate on the paper really well, but the metallic is going to leave some paint behind. So we're going to create a polka dot pattern on the plate that we're going to transfer to our gift wrap. Now, a lot of the times I'll use two brayers, and I'll use one for warm colors and one for cool colors, so that if there's any color left in here and I go from green to blue or another cool color, it doesn't make much difference. So you can indulge in two 6-inch brayers from Gel Press and use one for warm and one for cool color. That is a really nice luxury. So I'm going to roll out the quinacridone magenta, and I'm going to put the metallic tissue into it, and this is to create the polka dot pattern on the plate. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be subtle, but it really is nice. So now we've got the polka dot pattern, and we're going to transfer that onto the gift wrap. I've got my first print, and you can see that I could pull another print. The second print is usually even better, and then there may even be a third print. So now I've got 3 different levels of polka dots, and I love the variations. I don't want this whole sheet to be exactly the same because then it's going to look like mass manufactured and less like hand painted. So I love the variation in this. So let's do that again only this time, let's do it with some of the turquoise phthalo so that our polka dots have some variation in color. So again, I'm gonna roll my brayer out on a clean sheet of paper to get all the paint off of it, because magenta will adversely tint this nice turquoise green. So now we're going to come back in here with the tissue. Once you've used it, it doesn't really work the second time quite as well, but we've got a decent amount still on this sheet. So I'll go. So you're going to need probably multiple sheets of the gift wrap. They usually come in multiple packs, but be prepared to use it new for the best results. So I'm just going to move around this sheet. Doesn't need to be perfect. And then I'm going to come in here and print. I don't worry about lining it up perfectly either. You get some really fun serendipitous effects with the overlap, such as this unplanned overlap. That's kind of neat the way it doubles up there. So this one didn't leave. I didn't have as much paint on it. Or it's the color. Different pigments react different ways. So this one is a bit of a... we didn't get as many prints. We pretty much just got one good one of the green here. So let's do another with the turquoise phthalo. And I'm going to get a clean sheet of the gift wrap. Perhaps a little more paint will give me a second print. So now I've got my polka dots over my light colored solid base with my map lines still showing through. And I've got some heavy areas where I did the first prints and then secondary and third prints that get lighter as they go along. And that's the nice thing, again, about the metallic is that the iridescent paints will stand up on top of the heavy areas. So our next step then is to work with the stencil. So we're going to bring out the first stencil. I'm going to try Titan Green Pale. It's opaque. You can see that you don't see the tick marks at all through the front of this container. So we can put some opaque light colored dots on top of the pattern that we've already got. So I'm going to add a little green to it, a little bit of the teal to it, just a dot, and see how that looks. Also, I've got teal in my brayer. So, but this is going to give us, because it's opaque, it will go over the dark colors and it'll give us another layer of pattern that will show up. Because we've gotten kind of dark with our color and you can only go so dark. And with the translucent paints, they blend like a watercolor. So once you get dark, you can't put a translucent color on top of that, but the opaque will work. So let's do this. We're going to put this stencil down here and try it on this end. So I'm just going to use the heels of the palm of my hand to press the paper through the stencil. And now I've got some really great non-polka dot, but in the same family of a pattern. Now I don't have to do this over the whole sheet either. There's definitely something to be said for some randomness. So let's do this in just a few areas before we move on to the next stencil. So I got a second print right through the same stencil. Now I'm gonna lift up and put it on the other end. And I'll print that edge. And one more. And now I've got the ghost print of the full plate, and I'm going to put that in the middle, about here. And I bet I can get another print out of that. So now I've reintroduced some light areas on top of the dark. They ended up being a little bit of a teal color because that turquoise phthalo is really strong and very much overpowered the Titan green pale. But that's all right. It's still in my family of green. So now my next layer, I'm going to go back to my magenta and I'm going to use my ribbon stencil. The other thing you can do is put a second stencil along the edge. So we can grab another, this one is a peacock shape, and just put it on the edge, and then I can print the whole thing at once. This is lovely, blended, multiplied with what we've got going on down there. And this is what I love about working on a large sheet of paper. When the prints do not perfectly align where they serendipitously intersect, you get some unexpected beauty. So let's move this over again, and we can probably get another print. More gorgeous multiplication of patterns and colors with the translucent layers. And I could probably get one more print, but let's see, maybe. There's still paint in there. That one, of course, is much more subtle. And then we've got the ghost print. So we're going to lift the stencils and take advantage of the paint that was trapped underneath them. For the positive ghost print image, and there's another print that we can get. So we're going to move quickly. There's another beautiful ghost print. So now I've got this pretty well covered, but pretty varied, not consistent, which I love. It's a little more handmade looking. This area could use another lighter print. So I'm going to put the Titan buff by itself this time. You can see that even though I cleaned it off, it's still got magenta in it. So that's the benefit of having the multiple brayers if you really want your colors to be pristine. But I don't mind the varied results because we're all in the same color family. So for this one, let's use this peacock stencil larger and the ribbon stencil smaller. This is another one of my new designs. And we've got this last corner here that I wanted to put that in. So that's super interesting looking, the way it stands up off the dark. I've got another print, so I'm gonna put it here. Oh, I love that part though, so I don't wanna mess that up. I think I'm good. I think I'm happy with how it looks. I don't need to transfer that print. Okay, and we'll get that more clean later. So now we're gonna switch to the Impressibles Squares and Squares pattern. And the plates are brand new, so they're sticky and they're grabbing everything on the desk with them. All right, so this is going to be my last layer, and this is going to be my metallic layer. So the best way that I have found to keep the metallic pattern on the embossed edges is to use the regular plate as a, I'm going to flip this over so I'm on the clean side. I'm going to use the smooth plate as a palette to get the paint onto the brayer and then brayer it onto the high surface of the impressible plate. Now I'm going to disperse the gold iridescent onto the big plate just to get it onto the brayer evenly and smoothly. And then I'm going to roll it onto the square pattern so that it is only on the high pointed portions of the pattern so it stays up and we get a good clean impression. So I think we might need a little bit more paint. This is the iridescent metallic, so we want this to really stand up on the dark colors. And we're going to come back and print that. This will be our finishing touch, our glitzy, glimmery layer. And look at how beautiful that is with the gold on top. Beautiful. So we've got another print that'll be more subtle, a little less paint. And that looks beautiful over this. Then we'll come to the other side. Now metallics also come in copper and bronze. So you don't have to lock yourself into gold. And I think for holiday paper, the metallic is really nice. And also know that you can blend a metallic with a regular color and get an iridescent version of that. So if I blended metallic gold with magenta, I could get a really beautiful metallic pink. So don't be afraid to vary your colors from straight out of the bottle and mix your favorite color with metallic and see what that looks like. I'm staying with straight gold so that it's very light, so it stands up off of my darker colors on the bottom. There's another beautiful layer. Put that secondary print here. Again, I don't need them all to be equal or the same. I want this to look like hand painted, so variation in the intensity of each print is actually welcomed. So now I've got this big, beautiful piece of hand painted gift wrap. This is going to make someone's gift extra special. I suggest that you add a fabric ribbon with this for a big, beautiful presentation. A nice fabric ribbon with a wired edge. You can also tie the box with a jute twine, which is a nice combination of a natural with these colors. You can make your own combination of colors. I went with sort of a Christmas tone, but it doesn't always have to be Christmas. You could certainly be in a different palette for Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or birthday. Doesn't always have to be Christmas. So, but tis that time of year. But here is your hand-painted gift wrap on an old map, which allows you a great big sheet. And I hope that you have fun with this process.